All right, guys, gang. First and foremost, I didn't see this coming. I mean, it's almost inexplicable, but I won't do that to you. I'll try and have a few things to say about it. I just thought that at the start of the game, it was going even, and we were playing well, and I expected this game to kind of go back and forth, and then all of a sudden, it looked like we got the life sucked out of us, and I'll try and anticipate your question of why do I think this happened. And I don't know, but if I had to guess, I suspect it's the enormity of the situation. That's what I would attribute it to without looking at the tape. I mean, we just looked like we were a step slow and a step behind on loose balls. I mean, you've seen our teams play for a while now. We usually play with a little bit more blue collar grit, and we didn't today, and that was really disappointing. Of course, I'll take the blame for that. Hey, you got to get guys prepared in such a big situation. So that's what I saw, sort of sitting there watching it. I mean, I was doing my best to get them back get their mojo back, but I failed at my tasks. So let me open it up for questions, and maybe you guys can help me articulate it better.
Craig, the rebounding though.
Yeah, it's just so out of character. It's preposterous. I mean, I can't tell you the last time we got out rebounded, let alone maybe Arizona. But out-rebounded by 20, I mean, that's sort of first-year stuff. So that has everything to do with your mental state, I think. And I told the guys that. I said, we can't be checked. I mean, I don't think we're checked out. We have too much at stake, But I spoke with you guys before about uncharted territory, and the enormity of uncharted territory can sometimes be overwhelming.
That enormity, did you feel that early on, or was it once Washington kind of started making
it was once they started making a run in it. It just looked like we were hoping they would stop playing well instead of playing harder ourselves. I didn't think our energy we didn't match their desperation. Those guys are just as desperate as we are. They're playing for stuff too, and I don't think we matched that.
Roberto mentioned that he felt like this really wasn't the Beaver team.
Yeah, and that's the real takeaway from this is that, now's not the time for me to just completely go ballistic on these guys, because we still have a lot to play for, number one. And number two, they've earned the benefit of the doubt that we normally don't play this way, especially at home, but we normally don't play this way at all. So the real coaching starts now is how do I get them to regroup and mentally refocus.
How much easier is that process now with a veteran group like you have?
I can't imagine that we'll come out in our next game playing this way. I mean, and part of the reason is what you said there, Jesse. We have a real veteran group, and you just go down the line and look. I mean, Eric didn't play that well. Angus didn't play that well. A whole lot of people didn't play that well who normally play well. So we have to get back into the lab, as we say, get some work done, and get our mental. We have to get our mental energy where it should be, and our emotional energy where it should be. And it isn't wasted on me that this was a quick turnaround game too. I mean, but you have to play well when you have those quick turnaround games at home.
I know you're not looking for excuses, but as you just mentioned, Washington had an extra day.
Yeah, right. But if I really thought this was an extra day issue, I would say I don't think so. I really think, like I said, I mean, there's a lot riding on everything we do, and this is the first time for anybody in this group at Oregon State to have this much riding this late in the game, and we have to be prepared to take everybody's best punch. Nobody's going to lay down and say, okay, well, you guys are doing well this year, and we're going to let you keep doing well. They're going to try and knock you down.
That was the issue, the enormity.
It really didn't until late after it was already out of hand. I mean, when you're in the moment, you're just trying to figure out how to stop the bleeding. And that's what I was doing for most of the game. And then, when it gets down to the end and you start putting in subs and you start thinking about, okay, what the heck has just happened? That's when you think about it.
How do you think they've been able to play kind of through the uncharted territory the past few games? I mean, they played well. Why do you think you caught up with them today?
Grady, if I knew, I probably could have prevented it. I don't think we saw it coming, so we didn't expect it. And it could be the perfect storm of playing on Thursday, then playing on early Saturday afternoon, along with the fact that this game would take us right to 500, and it have some separation from the folks on the bottom. That there's only 5 more games left. I mean, I think it might be a perfect storm, but I can't tell you that I know. I'm not sure.
Obviously, the stakes are only raised now heading on the celebration.
Yeah.
How do you what are you going to kind of do to keep them in check?
Now that I can answer that one. We're playing a team that we beat in overtime, so there'll be a good amount of focus on that. We're playing another team who we beat and who's probably going to be ranked in UCLA on the road, so that brings with it its own focus. And then after that, you're playing a team that's going to be either 1, 2, or 3, or top 5, I'm sure, by the time we play them. And then finally, the last game of the season against a team that you could have beaten in overtime. So there's a lot of opportunities still to get back to 500 and maybe even more.
Craig, Angus said you wanted to let this loss marinate on the guys before anybody said anything. You wanted to let it marinate?
Yeah, that's a good term. Yeah, that's I didn't use that term in the locker room. That was his term. But yeah, this was one of those where they have to, everybody individually and then collectively as a team, you have to sort of let it sink in and see how you feel about it. And are you happy with what you've accomplished up till now and that's enough? Or you take this and then you use it as a motivator to get even better? I know these guys in the locker room, they won't be able to stand themselves until we get back to practice.
I saw Oregon. Thank you. I saw Oregon, Washington, and Washington lost that game. They lost like 5 and 6. Does that kind of show you that just because they're 14 and 13, it's slumping, that these teams are good and that is a capable team? The Huskies.
Well, absolutely. I mean, the conference this year is as good as it's been since I've been here. Top to bottom. When I first got to the league, the teams at the top were so much better than everybody else. It wasn't this diverse. I mean, not trying to be cliche-ish, but any team could beat any team. I mean, we were a foul shot away from going to overtime with USC. So I think it's more that the conference is good, and you guys probably follow the NCAA talk more than I do. I don't know if they're talking about any conference having more teams than our conference, or I think they're saying that we're right up there with the top conferences. I try not to listen to a whole bunch of that, but just from looking at watching games and watching our conference, it feels like our conference is pretty darn good.
Do you think, I know players have talked about how comfortable they feel in Go Coliseum. You guys were 5-1, I believe, in conference heading into this game.
Right.
Do you think that maybe that was a factor, and that might be a reason why they'll be attentive on the road because it's
No, I don't think the confines have anything to do with what happened out there. I just think that we are. I mean, what did we shoot? We shot 40% from the foul line. I mean, we've shot fouls well this year. I mean, that's a good indicator of nerves. I mean, what are we shooting from the foul line this year? 70 or so? 70%, and we shoot 40%, 41%. Sounds like nerves to me.
Does this loss kind of have a different feel than kind of past bad losses and past years because you have so many seniors? You can't really chalk it up as a learning experience to prepare you for the next year.
Yeah, I don't. When you're sitting in my seat, all the losses feel like losses. I mean, there's no degree of loss, and it's interesting because people always say, man, I'd rather lose by 20 than lose by 2. I've never felt that. And I don't know if that's because I was a player or the way I look at things. But winning is so much more fun than losing that when you lose, you just feel like you lose, whether you lose by 2 or whether you lose by 24. So I don't differentiate this. Now, the reason that I'm willing to say the enormity of the situation is different because it's a different situation than a lot of times when you lose games. But I think having a senior team, having a team that's got this kind of seniority on it, you don't expect to have a game like this.
Chris, for Hallis, the basketball game, playing with that same energy that he has, but you see him pressing a little bit offensively?
No. You know, there comes a time in a freshman's year when he's been playing a lot and he gets tired. I think he's a tad bit fatigued, and we're trying to get him a little bit more rest. And he's been successful, so teams are paying more attention to him. That comes into play too, and he has to recalibrate his game to the new attention he's getting.
Do you think the focus in practice next week will be on the defensive end, or?
No, I think the focus of practice is going to be on winning the next game. And that might include working on defense, because I thought to be in a game like that at that level, I thought our hedging was mediocre. But the focus is going to be on everything. It's not just going to be on defense.
And then you probably talked about this earlier, but was there any one part of this that sort of jumped out at you, like for me, if you take a look at the rebound?
Yeah, I mean, Percy, that jumped out at me when I was sitting there watching us. And you know what? It wasn't the kind of rebounds where Washington was jumping over us, grabbing rebounds. It was, we had our man blocked out, the ball bounced, might have hit the rim again, and they tipped it, and the ball went on the floor, and we didn't go get it, So that hit me as, like, I used the term, we just lost our blue-collar mojo in this game, where we're more of a scrappier team when it comes to that. And then, Sean, I have to tell you, when the last game we got out-rebounded, let alone out-rebounded by this much. So, I'm chalking it up to the enormity of the situation.
Then after the 32 points that Nigel had in the first game with D, did you go into this one thinking, all right, we want to do something different with that?
Well, we didn't want him to get 32, but then CJ had his normal game, which we had done a better job on him up at your place. We just. This was a game of, we could spread the wealth on what happened wrong, and as I said to these guys earlier, I really believe that we got caught up in the enormity of the situation, and it might have been overwhelming.